For your information, we are also live on YouTube. Okay. I can hear you, Khaled.
Okay. Can you give me like a moment? Just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll try with the new link if the recording is working, or maybe
Okay.
if I have. Okay.
If you can't record, it's not a problem. Okay.
Okay. Let's try it. I don't think I can record right now.
Okay.
Okay, so
No problem.
I'll try with the new.
No problem. So we can start. I will record the Java part. Okay. And it's not a problem for TypeScript. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Refactoring Kata session. So as we said before, this will be a mob programming session. The idea is to splitting people to two different groups. One group with me for Java. So the people who wants to do Java could stay here, and the people who wants to do TypeScript, they go with Khaled. Okay, he will send you right now the link. So on this link, on this second link that Khaled sent you on the chat, you can go with him and do TypeScript. Do you have any question? For the people who are not familiar with mob programming, so the idea is to have one driver who will be me and Khaled, me for Java, Khaled for TypeScript, and everyone who participates will be a navigator, so you can open your microphone and give Khaled or me your instructions. We will try also to do the role of facilitator, okay, and do this kata all together. So if you have any question, it's time to ask them before going to start the okay. So Khaled, I suggest you to go to our own link, okay, and then we will start.
Okay, see you.
See you in 2 hours.
Yes, in 2 hours. Bye.
Bye. I will just share you my screen. Uh, could you please tell me if you can see my screen shared?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So there are people who are coming yet. For the people who arrived just to the to this event, we splitted the people to two groups. Okay, one group for Java, the people who wants to do Java stay here, and the people who wants to do TypeScript, they go to this link that I will share with you. Okay, so you can join Khaled, and he will explain you how to start the kata. Okay, so let's start. Welcome again, people. We will do a kata. The name is Let Me Be Free. We will do it in mob programming. It's a kata that me and Khaled we will do in few days in DDD Europe 2022. My name is Seper Namdar. I am a technology agnostic developer. It means that I'm interested in any particular. I'm not interested in tools or language. I'm more interested to everything that is not linked to particular technologies like craft, DDD, architecture, and so on. I'm also a member of DDD Iran community, which is a community for Persian people. And currently, I'm working for Shodo as a software engineer in Paris. So Khaled will do his presentation in another link, which is on TypeScript. So I put it in the chat. If you want to do TypeScript, you can go on this new link and do TypeScript. The people who stay here will do Java with me. Okay. So first of all, let's be clear in some concepts. We will talk about bounded context in diamond-driven design. And a bounded context is just an autonomous system who will expose some services to some clients or other bounded context, and maybe we have a data source that helps to save data or retrieve data for this autonomous system. The thing that is important is to know that a bounded context does not link to any other system. We should be able to deploy and compile it separately. So, and what is context mapping? The context mapping is this line that you can see between two bounded contexts. So it's an strategy. It's a pattern strategic that help us to understand how these two autonomous systems should work together. Okay, let's start to have a look to our code. So I will go on my GitHub. So if you go on my GitHub, you can see this project, Let Me Be Free. Okay. You don't need to clone it or install it. It's just to explain you how things go on. We will have we have a master branch. Okay. So this repository is for Java, and if you want, you have this one for TypeScript. So if you want to do TypeScript, you should go with Khaled on another link. Okay, this is the TypeScript repository. As we do Java, will stay in this repository. So in the we have exactly the same things in the two repositories. It's just the language that changed. So we will have 4 steps for this kata. This step 0, we will do it together right now. And for each step from step 1, you have a solution. So if you want to do this kata separately by your own, you can just clone this repository and follow the readmes. I already cloned this. I already cloned this repository, so I will just open it. For your information, we are also live on YouTube. Okay. Perfect. If you have any question, you can open your microphone and start to talk. Okay, let's go to step 0. I will check out the step 0. I will just run the tests to ensure that everything works. Just wait to build the project, run the test, and then we can go further. Okay, perfect. So all tests are green, so we can start. So the first question that we should ask ourselves is, what is the domain? The domain is a human resource domain. So the idea is for a human resource to have a system to help him to schedule an interview, and by scheduling this interview he will be able, the human resource will be able to find a recruiter who can test the candidates. And what who can test means is that the recruiter should cover all the candidate skills. That's the only business rule that we have for the moment to be able to schedule an interview. So we have this context. So we have our system, let me be free, that we opened here. As you can see, I will just close all the tabs. So it's an autonomous system. Not really, we will see why. And then the idea is that we will have another project that's name is shared objects. Let's open the shared objects. That one on a new window. So I opened these 2 projects in 2 separated IDE, as you can see, to simulate two systems that communicates with each other. And this shared objects system have some DTOs, some objects which are shared between let me be free and other bounded contexts, other systems that we should collaborate with them, we should share information with them. And there is a name for that pattern, which is shared kernel. Okay, so that this is the first strategic design pattern that we will talk about. It's a shared kernel. So when we talk about the shared kernel, it's a system that have some shared parts between all the bounded contexts. That's what we can see here. So our system, let me be free, and other bounded contexts have these parts of their system in common. When we use this shared kernel, you should avoid it as much as possible. Okay, but sometimes you can't do that, like this like the situation that we are in. And in these kind of situations, we should deal with it. If we should deal with shared kernels, we need to have mature teams which are able to communicate together correctly. Okay, they should be mature. We need strong integration tests. As we can see, if this part of project have some bugs or some errors, all these other systems will be impacted. Okay, so it's really important to be sure if we do some modifications here, the test will be run and ensure that we didn't create any bug, any problem to one or many other bounded contexts. Also, a best practice is to give the responsibility of the change and modifications to just one of the teams that share this part of thing. So for example, we can give the responsibility of change just to one of the teams that work with this shared kernel. Most of the time in real life, this shared kernel is a legacy system, or in domain-driven design terms, a big ball of mud. And that's happened very times in real life. The second pattern that we want to see is customer supplier. When one bounded context depends on another bounded context, for example, now the let me free bounded context depends on shared kernel. We can see that because if I go to my dependencies, I can see that I have a dependency to the shared kernel. Okay, so that means that if I want to compile and deploy my project, I need to first of all compile and deploy the shared kernel. Otherwise, I will not be able to work with this system. In this situation, we say that let me be free system depends on shared objects system, and so the let me be free is the customer of shared kernel, which is the supplier. So in DDD terms, we can say that let me be free is downstream of shared objects upstream. Okay, it's the same thing for other bounded contexts that use the shared objects. Okay, let's have a look to the project. We can see that we have some models here. So the model is just an anemic object because we don't have any particular behavior in this class. We have just getters and setters. We don't have setters here, but that's the animate object's behavior that we can see mostly. Some data structure with getters and setters. I have two repositories. One repository for recruiters that helps me to find all the recruiters from some data source. And I have a room repository that helps me to book some space, giving some dates. And again, a second behavior that helps me to cancel if I have some space ID. We have just one use case, as I already talked with you. I already presented it. It's to schedule an interview. Okay, so these two repositories, I will inject them to my use case, which is plan an interview. And in plan interview, we can see that we have some steps which are our use case scenario. So we should check the candidate, we should check the interview date, we should find an appropriate recruiter giving the interview date and the candidate information. We should book in the recruiter calendar his availability, because if we don't do that, the recruiter could have many two or many interviews at the same time, and at the end we will book a room for this interview. We check the room to ensure that it's okay for our use case, and at the end we produce an interview object and we send it to our client, which is the human resource. Okay, and as you can see here, this class is a God class because we have all these, for example, check candidates. We should ensure that candidate ID is not null or empty. We have check interview date to ensure that interview date is not null or is not before today. We have defined appropriate recruiter that find all the recruiters from the repository, filter the recruiters that are available at the interview date. We'll filter the recruiters who cover all the skills of the candidates, and then we will first one that we found. If we don't find any recruiter, we will send an exception to the client. For book recruiter is giving all recruiters, finding the recruiter with the ID, and then we will remove the interview date from his availabilities. And this check room, we can see that we can't do that because some reason. We will talk about this check room at step 4 of our workshop. And these are the tests, all the tests that I already ran, and I have 2 fake repositories, okay, for my tests, and you can see that it's a mess. We have a lot of data that we enter to our system to run the tests, and that's again happen mostly in real life. That's not really what we want to see here. Okay, so the question that I have for you is what kind of problem do you find in this project that I presented to you? What do you expect how the system should be and it's not? Okay, so you can open your microphone and talk with me.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. In the plan interview section, I saw something that when you wanted to find some recruiter, when you didn't find any recruiter, you just threw exception.
Yeah.
That was one of the places that I think there is no need to throw any exceptions. No.
Yeah, you are right. Maybe throwing an exception is not a good idea. We can just do some optional recruiter and send it to the client, and then the client will deal with it. Okay, very well. What else? The question is more about the design. What is the problem of the design?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I think that the plan interview class it's a class that do everything.
Yeah.
And it should maybe delegate some responsibilities to other small classes that have some clear responsibilities.
Yes, very well. Very well. This is an application service. Okay, the application service, the responsibility of application service is to having the scenario of a use case without any detail. So all these details, how to find a recruiter, what is the rule to check a room or check a date, okay, all these things we don't need to see that here, okay. So there is an okay, so that's great. Thank you. Do you have any other expectation about this project? That was all? Okay. Yeah?
Yeah, I think some reporting mechanism can do a good job. I don't know if there is any reporting, reporting system. I don't know if it should be some part of this, project, or it should be another bounded context. I have no idea. I don't have many knowledge in DDD, but I think reporting mechanism is good.
What do you mean by reporting? You mean some documentation about this code?
No. For example, about finding the recruiters and something like that. I don't see anything that, for example, we have these candidates and in this state, and
you need, for example, some logs. To log.
Not exactly log. For example, when you use a system like this, you expect to have some output, some form of output. Different kinds of output. I don't know if we should expect it from this system or not, but I think there should be something like reporting.
So clearly the output of our system is an interview, and an interview for us is one recruiter, one candidate, one interview date, and a room, some space. That's what the human resource needs to know to be sure that the interview is planned. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can talk more in details about reporting if we have time at the end of the workshop. Okay. So perfect. So the idea is this is a procedural code. It's not an object-oriented code. And what we need, for example, is to putting this method, for example, to candidates. Okay, so if I do F6 to move that that code, we can see that the candidate class is not suggested. You can see that IntelliJ suggests us recruiter repository or room repository. And why? Because the candidate is a part of shared kernel. Okay, so we can't do that. We can't. If the idea is to put this method in the candidate class, we will need to modify this system, these candidates in shared kernel. And let's say that we don't want to do that. We don't have the rights to change the shared kernel. Okay, so this is a problem. And again, I have a question for you. How should I do that? How do I solve this problem? I need to delegate responsibilities to some classes. This class is a part of another system, and that blocks me. What should I do?
Maybe we can have our own candidate class.
Very well.
That
Very well.
that reflects our rule, our business rule.
Perfect.
And that class can depend on the candidate class from the shared object.
Okay. Could you help me? Could you tell me how should I do that? Because it's a mob programming session, and the idea is that I will be the driver, so I will just code, and you will be the navigator. All of you are the navigators, so you can help me to do that. Anyone can open his microphone and help me to do that. Just give me the instructions.
What we can do is just to create a new object of candidate.
Where
and
should
create
I
a map,
create this object?
A map. Sorry?
Where should I create this new candidate?
So you can create maybe the DTO package.
Another package or one package that exists? In which package should I do that?
No, you can just put model.candidate.
Okay.
Model.
You want to have a package that names model candidate. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what should I do? To create a new class that names like let me be free candidate.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So now what should I do?
So what we can do is just to duplicate somehow the code in candidate from the kernel.
Okay, you want me to copy paste that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we can create a mapper just to map between a candidate from kernel to our own candidate.
Okay, so
and
you need to
some
methods.
I will create a new class mapper.
You want a new class, okay?
Yes, like that we can inject him.
Candidate mapper, okay, perfect. And
then we can have two methods.
Okay.
So from candidate kernel to our own, and from our own to candidate.
So from from let me be free candidate to candidates. Okay.
Yeah. So we can put this maybe candidate kernel or shared candidate kernel. I don't know.
Okay.
Just to be more.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I just let me do return null. So what we expect is more. Let me be free candidates from shared candidates to let me be free candidates. Okay, and then you want to okay, so here we will have
A
parameter which is the candidate.
Shared candidate, yes.
Okay, candidate. Okay, and so the idea is to map, for example, candidate dot get skills. I will set it to let's create a new instance of let me be free candidates new let me be free candidates.
No, you just return let me be free candidate dot builder, and you can put at the end dot build and return this, because now we are adding some extra lines. Oh no, because you didn't put at builder in this.
Yeah. So let's go to the no, it's not the candidates. Let's go to the let me be free candidate.
Yes.
Okay, so here what should I put?
Builder from Lombok BMS.
Okay, I think we don't have Lombok.
Oh.
Okay, let's just add it to. I don't like Lombok.
Why?
I will tell you why. But let's do that. Let's do that. Lombok. So Lombok. That helps us to having some builders, having some. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Lombok version. What is the Lombok version that we
it's
use?
1.18.22.
Thank you. Let's put it in the properties. And now we should be able to use it. Okay, so a builder. What else? Do I need other things or not?
Yeah, so we can make it, I don't know if we can make it immutable with a at value, because once we create it, we don't want to let other people to modify it.
Okay, what should I add? So
at the is at value.
At value. Okay.
Yes, this one.
Okay.
And that's it.
So what should I do in my builder?
So yes, we can. So we can put candidate dot for each column with the same name, because we just copy and paste.
Okay.
So for each one,
but okay, perfect. Yeah? But do we need all these data?
No. Now I'm just taking January, so I don't know what is the requirement now.
Okay.
So
okay.
If you know which field you need, so let's do that.
Let's go to the first step of our workshop. Okay, Let's talk about anti-corruption layer. Anti-corruption layer is a thin layer that we can put in the entry of our system, and the anti-corruption layer have two responsibilities: filtering data for us, okay, and translate it to our ubiquitous language. In this first step, we will just do the first responsibility of our anti-corruption layer, which is filtering data. As you can see, anti-corruption layer is always in the downstream side. So in our let me be free bounded context, and it helps us to not be corrupted by the other bounded context. That's actually the case. We are corrupted by shared kernel objects. We can't do modifications. That's why we created this mapping class, okay? And this is an anti-corruption layer. If you work with a legacy system and you want to introduce new bounded context, you can start with a simple bounded context. In this case, your bounded context will be named bubble context. And if you have a big bunch of data, and again, you want to filter them and translate them, its name is ACL backend repository. Okay, so what we are doing now is to create an anti-corruption layer. This is an anti-corruption layer that we are doing, okay? And the idea again is to filtering data. So the question is, which are the data that I need to work with this use case? This use case. I just need the interview dates and the candidate ID. That's
ID.
all. Do I need other things? So the candidate ID, I need it. Let's do that for candidate ID. Can ID, so is candidate dot ID. Okay. What else do I need? Let's go back to the interview plan. I need, in this find appropriate recruiter, the candidate skills. I also need candidate skills. Okay. So candidate skills. Candidate dot skills. Yeah, that's all I need. And I could do build. Okay. So this,
we can go further. So you just stuck in the let me be candidate, because now we put extra fields that we don't need.
yeah. Thank you. So this name I don't need, this first name I don't need, this date birth, experience, else skills I need, and all these things I can remove them. So that's my real data. That's what I really need. Okay, perfect. We can do the same thing for all others, and the idea is now to use this mapper here. So I will just use this mapper. I will inject the mapper to my class. Let me be free candidate mapper. Okay. Okay. And I need a candidate mapper here. Private final. And I can say now that this candidate mapper is equal to the candidate mapper. Now I can use it. Okay. So I can say from, what happened? Yeah, okay. Public. Well, now I can use that. I can pass a candidate, and then I can have let me be free candidate.
Sorry, because now it should be from candidate to let me free candidate, right?
Yeah. From shared candidate.
Share candidate, yes, this one.
Okay, perfect.
And now you have to change candidate. Yes.
Okay, and now what I can say is that I will change this candidate, okay, that I don't want to see here by let me be free candidate. Okay, so again, change here, let me be free candidate. Okay, let's go back, and now I can go to this method. I will do F6, and now you can see that this time the let me be free candidate is suggested. So I can just do refactor, and this method comes automatically to my let me be free candidate. Okay, by doing I can do the same thing for the recruiter and for this interview date. Okay, I don't know how much time. Okay, we have time. Do you want to I can just switch to step 1 solution, or we can do that together. What do you prefer?
What do you mean? Sorry.
I mean that let me be free. Actually, the let me be free, I don't want to. I want to make it static. Yeah?
I want to suggest that we can maybe move this mapper inside the repository, which could be another place for having this, because we want to communicate with the out service, which is out of the scope of the bundled context. And the repository layer may be the best candidates. I think this mapper doesn't belong really here, and we don't need another extra dependency here.
Okay, you are right. A mapper is a kind of infrastructure service, so we should not see the mapper in the model.
Exactly.
Okay. And so what do you suggest? Should I create some package?
Yes, maybe infra.
Yeah,
and implementing an implementation for repositories we have already in. Okay, we don't have a candidate repository, so we can first define a candidate repository and implement it inside the infra. Or it could be something like, I don't know, anything, but I think a repository can be responsible for such kind of translation between domain and outer models.
Very well. So you suggest that we need to have some candidate repository. The problem is that we don't have the candidate repository here. So
we need to introduce it first.
Yeah. Okay. Candidate repository.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is an interface. Yeah. And what are the methods that I should have on it?
So exact things that we are doing currently with the mapper.
Yeah.
So I think we don't need to change the codes, but we kind of need to organize it better using this infra layer we have. So yeah, this is exactly the
Okay, and this,
right.
so that one will implement the
Exactly.
candidate sorry, candidate repository. Perfect. And that should, it's public, that one should be public too.
Yeah.
And so the candidate repository is available now. Okay, it's not, I would like to make it static.
Why? I have a question because.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yes, sure.
Shouldn't we just run test cases between these refactoring steps?
Yes, sure.
Or it is just something that we do at the end of it?
Yeah. Just for the moment, I will just try to run because now actually my test will not run. Okay, I will just add a candidate repository, candidates, new candidate mapper. And these candidates, I will put it here. Repository. The same here, candidates repository. And now my test should run, should be green. It's important to still green with tests. Very well. Okay. So
sorry, I have a question. I have a question because now we created a new interface, candidate repository. So it's implemented by candidate mapper, but when I read candidate repository, it's like we want to save something or like that. So now we just want to map an object to another one. But I don't know why we want to create candidate repository for map object to another one.
Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you. Again, it's a map programming session, so I'm just the driver. Okay, so
yes,
I do what you say.
That's why it's not for you. It's for all of us.
Yes, I know.
Because
the idea is to share our knowledge and learn.
Yes, yes.
So
that's why I want to understand.
So, what do you suggest?
So to support what I suggested before, because we are converting something out of the bounded context to something in bounded context, the best place to doing such a stuff, I believe, it's in infra layer. And I suggested repository because repository is responsible for creating objects. It could be from a database, it could be from a messaging infrastructure or another bounded context. So when we want to create something in our domain, I believe the best place to create it or to modify it and store it would be repository, even if this mapper name is kind of, I don't know, confusing, but the thing we are doing is to retrieve and model from somewhere out of our application or bounded context. And I believe this is the repository responsibility. So it looks a little bit weird because we are not doing it against the database, but I think maybe it could be the right place for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm wondering why, because so when you read repository, so we want to store something into something else, but here it just we get an object and we create a new object and we pass it. That's it. It's like I don't know how do we say in English with a ball. So I just take the ball and give it to another one. I'm not going to store or something like that. But
So
maybe naming convention.
where is the place we are planning to get the candidates? I don't know, the shared kernel candidates model from?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Where is the place? If we should not put it in the repository, where would you like to put it? Let me help. Let me help.
In the mapper that it was before, I think she means.
Okay. What is the responsibility of a repository? Could you tell me? What is a repository?
Okay, it's just to repository is just to take something, store it, and we can retrieve it when we want to have it in our application. So we can update or we can manipulate this object, and so we can save, update, delete. But it's just to have something persistent.
It's to CRUD, create, read, update, and delete.
Yes, like that.
Okay. Are we doing?
We can
Let me help. Are we doing some
sure.
CRUD here? Yes or no?
Yes,
do
maybe we can. We have a create,
update, or delete. Do we work with some data collection directly? And
I want to say no, because there is no persistent data in our context.
Perfect. No persisting. So the answer is no. What is an infrastructure service?
That is a good question.
In an infrastructure service is like repository, but the main difference is that there is no persisting. Okay, so like repository without persisting data. And here in the case of candidate mapper, it's the case. It's an infrastructure service. Okay. And so I agree with you that the place of candidate mapper is not in the model. We need some abstraction to put it somewhere else, the implementation in the infra. I already agree with you, but I also agree that this is not a repository, so perhaps we need to find another name for this candidate repository. We can just put candidate mapper or some better name. I don't know what. Maybe you can help. But in my opinion, that is the right way to refactor this part of code. Any question, any suggestion?
I'm totally okay with this. So we can follow the same way we working with repository, but we just rename it. I can add more evidence for why I believe this is a repository. This could be inside a repository, but I think we can save it for another discussion, and we can continue with working on it because the implementation is the same.
Okay? Yes, the implementation is the same. I agree with you. Okay, so let's save some time. Okay, I will just go directly because now you understand the idea. The idea is to create new objects. Okay, create some mappers. These mappers helps us to filtering the data. So this is our anti-corruption layer, okay? And we should do that for the recruiter, for the interview date, for this space, and so on. And then we will be able to put these behaviors to the right objects, which are on objects, not the shared kernel objects. Okay, so that's how we start to be free. We start to decoupling ourselves from the shared kernel. Okay. Do you get the idea?
Before you switch your branch, can we just look at the method that we moved into the candidate class, please?
Yes, that's the that's the method that we moved here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And you can see that all the tests pass. I will run tests with code coverage. Okay, so you can see that this part of code, this class, is totally covered with tests. Yeah, you can see that here is green, so everything is okay. Another thing that we can do is this part of skills. Let me see if there is other methods that we can put. Yeah, look, this candidate, again, it should not be the candidate of the shared kernel. It should be the candidate. It should be our candidate. Okay, so let's be free candidate. So we will take this candidate skills. How I knew that it was because of the test coverage. I see that here the skills are not covered by my tests. So it was some inspiration for me to understand that I have some problems somewhere, and then if now I will run the test again by the coverage, you will see that this part will be also green. Okay, perfect. Everything is green. Everything is perfectly perfect. Okay. So let's switch the branch. If you have not other questions, I will just remove all the modifications that we had. We will just switch the branch. I would like to be, if everyone understand now what is an anti-corruption layer and how we should implement it. Okay, so if there is not any question, I will just remove everything, and let's switch to the step number 2. Okay, my implementation is a little bit different from yours, but I again have, if we can have a look to the step 2, I have HR candidate, which is my candidate, HR recruiter. I have an interview date, okay, and a room, okay. The implementation is a little bit different. I used composition. You suggest me to use a mapper, which is perfectly correct. I just used another method, which was composition. So I just passed the anti-corruption layer to the constructor of my new object, and then I filtered the data that I need. I moved the methods to my new objects, and we have exactly the same thing. Okay. Now, this, as we said, the second responsibility of an anti-corruption layer is to translate data. Okay, this, let's see, this HR candidate does not correspond to my ubiquitous language. What is my ubiquitous language? Let's see. If we go to my GitHub, and if we go to the Let Me Be Free repository, I have my ubiquitous language explained here. So I have a consultant, which is a technical member of the company that should match the profile of a candidate. What is a profile? An interview date, a candidate, interview, room, and human resource. These are the terms that I should see in my code, not the HR candidate, not the HR recruiter. So what do you suggest to complete the anti-corruption layer implementation?
Rename
Yeah,
classes.
simply we can rename it. For example, consultant for HR recruiter, I will just rename it. Okay, consultant. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, just consultant. Okay, I will ask to IntelliJ to do the work for me. So the HR recruiter to consultant, yes, please. HR recruiters to consultants. This is the, yeah, let's do that. Say okay, and here we are. Even this, no, this recruiter comes from the shared kernel. Let's keep it, yeah, let's keep it recruiter. But okay, let's do that for other ones. So HR candidate is a profile, so resume of a candidate, that's what I need. So this is a profile, and I have a room. The room is okay, so I will not rename the room. We have an interview, it's okay. We have an interview date. Interview date is okay also. Room repository is okay. Recruiter repository, we can rename it. Okay, let's say that it is a consultant repository. Okay, because as we can see, it's a list of consultants. Okay, and our fake consultant repository, we can rename it also. It's an implementation of consultant repository for tests. Okay, even our exceptions, any recruiter is available exception, we can rename it. We can say any consultant is available for some interview. Candidate ID missing exception, I can say it's profile ID missing exception. And yeah, I think everything is okay. I can go through my tests, through my code to see if, for example, these recruiters, I don't like recruiters, but consultants. Yes, please. So you can see that the idea of the anti-corruption layer again is to not only decouple the implementations from some other system, but also to translate and to understand this system by using our ubiquitous language, our ubiquitous language. So now we can say that the anti-corruption layer is correctly implemented because the two responsibilities are achieved. The candidates come from here, from these mess. Okay, so here, this is the implementation of find all, and here you can see that I send a list of consultants, not a list of recruiter, and that's the place that we will do our translation. It's in the implementation of our repository. Any question? Any suggestion? Is it clear for everyone what we did? Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
So, imagine that you will talk with other systems for these two with these two systems. Okay, and then you find out that there are some parts of your logic that is also implemented in their system. Okay, and so each of these bounded contexts, they started to implementing their R anti-corruption layer, and each modification here in the shared objects, in this case, will impact all these three bounded contexts. So the amount of change is multiplied by the number of the bounded contexts. Okay, and maybe we can find a better solution for that. Do you have any idea how to let's say reduce the amount of change?
Maybe we can have this anti-corruption layer inside the shared object, and they do the conversion inside them, and yes, and publicate things from there instead of having.
And what's the name of this design, this strategic pattern?
Is it bubble context?
Not the bubble context, but the OpenOS service.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the OpenOS service opposed of anti-corruption layer is always in the upstream system. The idea of OpenOS service is to do the translation, do the modifications for the bounded context that needs some common service, okay, and using a published language, okay, some language that is okay for let me be free and other bounded contexts, okay. So the idea is to implement this thin layer at the output this time of the shared objects, exposing some services to this to these downstream bounded context, and then translate the data to the published language, the language that was okay for all the bounded contexts that use this OpenOS service. So OpenOS service is always used at the upstream side, adapt the needs of the downstream bounded context. It's useful when we have many bounded contexts, not just one. If we have just one bounded context that needs some services, it's better to have its own anti-corruption layer and not to modify the shared objects, which is a shared kernel. But if we have many bounded contexts, maybe it's better to go for open as service. And as we said, we use a shared language to satisfy all downstream bounded context language. So this time, let's go. I will just go to the next branch. I will just switch. Let's go to the step 3. And in this step 3, we will work more with the shared kernel. Why? Because we want to create an open service for this shared kernel. Which are the services that we need to move here? We will, let's say that these are 2 services. Let me see for the candidates. Where's the profile? I want to move these 2 behaviors from profile to the shared kernel, because I know that these are the 2 behaviors which are shared. Okay, let's do it simple. Start and the end. So could anyone help me to do that? What should I do in the shared kernel part?
We can put it on the candidates and just call the function from the profile.
Okay. Is everyone okay? Is everyone okay with that solution? So taking these 2 methods and put them here.
I believe we shouldn't change the shared object.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Have
and
a
why? Could you say why?
Because it's if it's a legacy system, it's used everywhere, and if we touch it, we will break everything. Maybe.
Yeah.
So we should keep it as it is, and just surrounded by another layer. So do the comparison there.
Yeah. So as we said, you're totally right. As we said, an open as service is a thin layer that exposes services. So and as we said, it's always dangerous to modify an existing legacy system. It could create some bugs and then impacts many projects. So it's better to create this new layer and expose just some services. How should I do that? Can anyone help?
Create another package.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you. What's the name of this package?
Package. Let me be free, maybe, no?
It's not just for let me be free, but for all the bounded
contexts. For all. Okay.
What do you suggest as name? Just give me a name. It's not a problem. We can rename things.
It's going to be a service.
Okay, thank you. Service. Perfect. And then?
Create a model and compose the candidates in it and move the functions to this object.
Okay, so this new object, how should I name it?
Maybe candidate service.
Okay, let's say it's candidate service. We can always change the names. Okay, so as we are in a workshop, we will not pass a lot of time on the names, but in real life we need to. Okay, so in this candidate service, what I need to do?
We need a object of candidates,
Yeah.
and
Okay, so candidate. Okay, we need the candidates. Okay,
now we can move the functions from let me be free to the candidate service.
okay. So here we have some exception. So we need also this profile ID missing exception. Let's take it profile ID missing exception. I will just create it. It's easier. So profile ID missing exception. Okay, we'll extend the runtime exception. Okay, so now we have it. Okay, we need the ID, so it's the candidate ID. Okay, and profile ID. Okay, maybe we don't need this profile ID here. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I have my candidate, but I need to maybe have some constructor that takes a candidate. Yeah, perfect.
I think we need an interface to use in the downstream.
Very well. Why do we need an interface?
Because we can change and modify the code without interrupting others.
Perfect. Imagine that it's an API. An API is some abstraction. So you don't need to. You know, the idea is that these tree bounded contexts don't need to know if something changed here. Okay, so we need to have some abstraction, some interface, some API in this OpenOS service layer. Okay, that just expose services. You can do some check for your candidate. That's all. That's the only information that these tree bounded context needs to know. Okay, that's why we need some candidate validator. Okay, service. Okay, it's an interface, and this candidate service implements the candidate validator. Okay, so the candidate validator, let's just say that we we override that method and this method. Okay, let's put them
not the private one.
which one is private? Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
invalid.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So we have just one method. Okay. That should be final. Okay. And that's all. It's okay for everyone. So it's our OpenOS service. As we said, we need some published language. Okay, and this published language, we need to define it with all these bounded contexts. Okay, we can just suggest some names, and that's not enough. As we are in a workshop, okay, so we will just suggest some names, but in real life, consider that this published language is very important. You need to talk with these teams to find some common language. Okay. And what should I do now in the, let's see if we can just, we need to compile the shared kernel system. There is no test, unfortunately. Okay, we can implement some tests for the validator if you need. And here, what should I do is just to remove it. Remove this part of our code. Let's go now to the interview. Where is my interview? No, it's not the interview, the plan interview. Okay, now I have a problem. I have no more this check profile method. What should I do?
We can create that and just call the anticorrupt, which is open API function.
Yeah, it's not an open API, it's open as service. This
Open host
open as
service.
service, I need to inject it here. Okay. Profile is what? No, it's candidate validator. Yeah. Candidate validator. Okay. Candidate validator. Let's say. Okay. This candidate validator, I need a field for it. And now I can use it. So candidate profile, check profile. We missed something here.
Yes, we need to pass an argument, I think.
Yeah. What is the argument? What is this argument that we need?
Candidate.
It will be candidate.
Yeah, should be candidate. And where is this candidate? It's
inside profile class.
Yes, it's inside the profile. It's here. Very well. So it's easy to do that. I will just put profile dot. Yeah, I need a getter for this candidate. Let's create that. Ref generates a getter for the profile. Okay. So now I can use this get profile, and let's rename it. Let's say that it's a get candidate. Okay, what's the problem? Yeah, so in check profile, again, here we need a candidate. Yeah. In this implementation, we need a candidate. Okay, so I don't need this no more. I can remove it. I can remove this constructor. Yeah, thank you. And very well. And as we depend on shared kernel, now I need to compile the shared kernel project. Well, and if I go now to let me be free, you can see that it's no more red. My code can work, and I should be able to no, there is some problem here. I need to inject a candidate validator. New candidate service. We name that like that. So this candidate validator, now it's no more red. My test should pass. Oh, they don't pass. What's the problem? Yeah, so the throwable changed. If we go to this check profile method, we can see that that will create a profile ID missing exception. And what's the problem?
Because we copied the exception, so it's not the same. It's
Let's
not the
go
same,
to the
same
test,
exception. And
that test. Okay, assert that the exception of type profile missing ID exception is thrown by, yeah. Okay, so it's not the same exception, I think. Yeah.
yes, this one is from
Yeah.
from our.
I need to remove
let me be free, and the other one is okay.
Yeah, and so we need to import the right one, and now our test should pass. Yeah, well, and now we can see that this profile ID missing exception is not a good name, because profile is a part of ubiquitous language of let me be free. We are in case of shared kernel, so maybe profile is not a part of ubiquitous language of the other bounded context. So maybe we need to rename it to candidate ID missing exception, okay? Or find a name that corresponds to the shared language of these three bounded contexts, okay? It's something that we need to take in mind. Well, now we have some open host service implementation that we have in this shared kernel. And now from this moment, all these bounded contexts could just call a service that's named candidate validator, check profile, and they don't need to know how it's implemented. Okay, we can change here, we can add something here.
Maybe we should also rename the check profile method.
Yes, sure.
The
check profile is not a good name. It's more a check candidate.
Check candidate or check.
That's it. It's check candidate. The profile ID missing is not a good name. It's more candidate ID missing. Okay. And if we need, as you can see, I kept the anti-corruption layer here. If the candidate ID missing is not okay for my let me be free, I can still have an anti-corruption layer and rename things, filter things and rename things to my ubiquitous language. It's totally okay to have anti-corruption layer and open host service together. So do you have any question? Do you have any suggestion? Okay, let's move to the step number 4. So until now, we saw how we can implement an anti-corruption layer. We saw an example of openness service. And now we want to see, okay, see the problem that we have in the step number 4. So I have also I should also call some room booking bounded context to having some space, okay, for my candidate and the recruiter to doing the interview. Okay, that's why I need the booking room, this room booking bounded context. If I go to my code, let's go to let me be free. Let's close the other tabs. No, not, I don't want the test, but the use case here. I can see that this rooms book, it's the rooms is some repository. Okay, I have just 2 methods. One to book some room for some interview date. Okay, that give me a room. A room again is a part of shared kernel. It's some space that have a lot of data. Okay, and I have also a method that's cancel, so I can give some space ID and then free this room that I already booked. Okay, when I go to so booking a room give me an object which names book, which names room. Okay, and if I go to the check room method, I can see that it checks the capacity of the room. It should be more than 2, because candidate is 1 person, recruiter is 1 person, so 1 plus 1 equals 2. It should be greater or equals than 2. And then, as it's a technical test, I need to some room that contains a PC and a monitor. Okay, but how can I understand it if it's the capacity is not okay, if the equipments of the room does not contain a PC and a monitor? What should I do? Should I cancel the room and find another room? If I do that, what should I do if again the other room has no PC and no monitor? Okay, I can ask thousands of times and having a room that does not correspond to my needs. If I cancel the room and raise some exception, so it's a problem again. Because of the room, I can't plan an interview and it's just damage. I can cancel the room and generate an online interview link, an interview link, but this functionality I don't have for the moment. And many other questions that you can ask, because this books, this interface that is exposed by the room booking bounded context does not respond to my needs. Okay, so it's a problem. It's too complicated for me to implement this part of code. So let's see 2 other strategic pattern of DDD. We have the conformist context mapping pattern, which is between some downstream and some upstream system. And the idea is that the conformist is like the anti-corruption layer. The difference is that when we are in the case of conformist, we have no chance to negotiate with this bounded context, with this unreachable bounded context. Imagine you are working with PayPal or Google. Okay, so Google or PayPal will expose some services and you will just use them as they are exposed. Okay, you can't go to talk with Google and tell them, could you please do a service for me that do explicitly these things and these things. Okay, the Google and PayPal are much more powerful than you, and they will not negotiate with you. In this case, we are in the case of conformist. We should conform our needs based on the service that the upstream system exposes. Do you have any question about the conformist context map? We have also the separate way. Imagine that you have two teams, one in India, one in United States, and the lapse of time is too big. It's hard to synchronize these two teams together. Sorry. Imagine that you have two teams that could not support each other. Okay, each time you plan an interview, there are pressures, there are bad behaviors, so you cannot do meetings between these two teams. In these cases, the amount of synchronization, the amount of working teams together is a lot. So we can go for separate ways and let each team implement their needs in their side. Okay, and we name it separate ways. So in the case of separate ways, the inconvenient is that we could have some duplications of code, and we accept that. Okay, so let's go to the step 4. I need you to talk with me, to share informations, take some hypothesis, and tell me what can I do for this part of my code. Which context mapping strategy should I use to solving this problem, to having some code here? We saw anti-corruption layer, we saw open as service, customer supplier, separate ways, and conformist. So in your opinion, which context mapping strategy is better for this case? Any idea? Let's say, what do you think about anti-corruption layer and open as service? Does them match to this problem?
No.
Why?
The first thing, what is the business rule for this case?
That's the business rule. So I need that the capacity of the room that I have is equal or greater than 2, and I need to know if there is a PC and a monitor in my room.
Okay, and then what is the business rule? What do you do when you have when the condition is true or false?
I need some services in the room repository that give me that already includes these two conditions. I need I need to have when I see room book, I need, maybe I don't want to have some checks. I want to have a room that already respects these conditions.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise, I need to search a lot because these methods will just give me a room. That's all. And that's not what I need really. I need some room that respect these two conditions.
Okay, I think if we can negotiate with room service, we need to ask them to provide such informations and services we need. So they should meet our needs. Otherwise, we need to go with other patterns. But I think this is the key question here, if we can negotiate with them or not.
Very well. Very well. That's the key question. Can we negotiate with them or not? If we cannot negotiate with them, maybe we should go with conformist. Okay? But if we can negotiate with them, maybe other context mapping strategies can work. Okay, let's say that we can negotiate with them. Which context mapping strategy will you prefer to use?
An OSS may work.
Yeah, an OSS may work, and it's perfectly a very good idea to having an openness service. And how about the separate way? Is it a good idea to go for separate way?
It's kind of a trade-off here between how much maybe operational cost we are creating by using separate way or not,
Very well.
or it's more complicated to do the software part. But if the operational cost is tolerable, we can go with separate way as well.
That's the right answer. That's the right answer. So in separate way, we should be able to calculate the amount of keeping teams separated. If implementing this service in our side is easier, have not a lot of cost for us, maybe separate way is a good idea. Maybe it's better to not be depend on another service and having a hand on our system. Okay, but if the amount is too much, maybe it's better to go for an open service if we can negotiate and ask them to creating us some some services that already respects these two conditions, and then when I ask rooms to book something, when I have the booked room, I don't need to check it, or if I check it, it's always true. Okay. Well, we almost finished the workshop. So the final word is domain evolves. So context mapping strategies can change. Maybe today you are the downstream of some system, and tomorrow domain change, need change, you become the upstream system. So you should be able to change these strategies. Your system should be flexible to accept these changes. And Ruth Malan, which is a famous architect, says that if the architecture of the organization is at odds with the architecture of the system, it's the architecture of the organization that wins. You should always first understand what is the strategic pattern of communication with your systems. That's much more important about the organization of your own architecture, of your own system. Okay. And we can see many DDD practitioners says that the strategic pattern of DDD is the most important part of DDD, and that's totally true. Okay. Do you have any question? Okay, so if you don't have any question, we can just I put you two links. So we have the context mapping hints that you can find in the DDD crew GitHub. It's made by Nicktoon. Nicktoon is one of the person that's participating on it. Or if you want to have more information about the strategic design pattern and context mapping, you can read the blue book. There are so many other books that you can look, but the main ideas you can find them correctly in the blue book. So thank you all. We can wait here for the other team to join us, the TypeScript team.
We are already here.
They are already here. Okay,
Yeah.
it's perfect. So if you have any question, me and Khaled, we are glad to respond. Khaled, how was the TypeScript part?
I think it was good because let's say it was easier than expected because we were like 3 people, that's all.
Yeah.
So it's like more than a pair programming than more programming actually.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun. Thank you, Khaled, again.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, it's perfect. We will do this talk in DDD Europe 2022 in few days. So it's very important for me and Khaled if you have any feedback for us. Okay, how we can do it better. Actually, in DDD Europe, as it's not a remote session, we will split people to groups. They will do the exercises by themselves, but we will be glad to hear your feedbacks.
You know, that maybe may I add something? Sorry, I'm not just asking,
Sure.
I'm just talking. So the thing is that, you know, just to make the example more realistic, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, maybe we can also talk about this distributed systems, you know, because normally you can't, for example, refactor the legacy system or just put the system where you don't have access to that, you know. Normally, you can do that ACL part with that serialization, deserialization part that happens, okay, when you want to integrate two systems, okay? And just to make it more, let's say, usable for, you know, maybe realistic scenarios, maybe you can also consider talking 5 minutes or something regarding when the system, the legacy system is not accessible by you, okay, and you have some remote objects, you know, because in our examples we put some behavior in the legacy system, okay,
yeah.
And at least in my case, it won't happen because we can't touch it, okay, and in a lot of cases the technologies are different, okay, so we don't have a Java legacy system that we are going to extend or something. Maybe only that part. The rest, I guess, it was very good.
Very well. Thank you for your feedback. I think I explained that a little. I said that in real life we will have some APIs that we will expose. So it doesn't matter what technology we use. And maybe you are right. We can say that if we can't have a hand on the legacy system, maybe we can create a new system that plays the role of the OpenOS service or the OpenOS service between our system, between the downstream bounded context and the legacy system. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other suggestions, other feedbacks?
I have a feedback as well. I think maybe you can add like a small portion of time at the beginning of the session for something like a knowledge crunching session. So we can crunch the knowledge of domain together a little bit better and have a better idea of what we are exactly facing. Because for me, myself, I get some more knowledge when you are start coding. So I don't have like a big picture from of what we are going to do. Maybe this could be more helpful for people who want to follow the refactoring part. Yeah.
Okay, so when I explained the code at the beginning, it was not enough. That's it?
The code was clear, but the business problem, to be honest, the domain wasn't that much clear at the first, at least for me. I'm not sure for everyone.
Okay, so make domain clear. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Other suggestions?
Yes. So thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting. My only feedback is that maybe at the beginning you should start with giving some context about the kata and saying what is the goal, and what are our final objective or goal, and precise the existing state and the final destination of the program and where we want to go.
Okay, I understand. We will add some hints about what is the goal of this kata and what is the exact what is the existing situation where we want to go.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other idea? Thank you all joining us, doing these two mob programming sessions with us. The Java part that I did is already in YouTube in our channel. So if you need, you can go and watch it again. As we said in our GitHub, you can find this workshop and you can do it by yourselves, because in each step you have a solution and a README that help you to do the kata. And if you have any other feedback, you can just share it with us. If you want to do this kata in another language, you are really welcome to do that. And I hope you